Hello, welcome to Moments That Touch. Sit back and relax because the best story is about to begin.
The morning sun cast long shadows across Eleanor Hayes' kitchen. As she poured her third cup of coffee, the ceramic mug trembled in her hands, betraying the calm she desperately tried to maintain. Today marked exactly 4 years since her daughter Sophia had vanished without a trace, leaving behind only questions and a mother's shattered heart. Eleanor's weathered fingers traced the edge of a photograph of Sophia at her high school graduation, radiant with promise, her smile bright and carefree. The young woman in the picture had no idea that in just 2 months, she would disappear into thin air, becoming another cold case file in a police station basement. The grandfather clock in the hallway ticked steadily, its rhythm both comforting and maddening. Each tick was another second without answers, another moment of not knowing. The silence in the house pressed against Eleanor's eardrums, heavy and suffocating. Then the phone rang. The shrill sound shattered the morning quiet like breaking glass. Eleanor's hand jerked, nearly dropping the photograph. She stared at the phone, her heart suddenly hammering. These days, unexpected calls rarely brought good news. Mrs. Hayes? The voice on the other end was professional, but carried an undertone Eleanor couldn't quite identify. It was male, middle-aged, with the careful pronunciation of someone delivering significant news. This is Ranger Martinez from Pine Ridge Station. We have a situation here that requires your immediate attention. Eleanor gripped the phone tighter, her knuckles whitening. What kind of situation? There was a pause just long enough for Eleanor's imagination to conjure a dozen terrible possibilities. Then Ranger Martinez continued, his voice gentle, but urgent. A young woman showed up at our station this morning. She claims to be your daughter. Ma'am, she says her name is Sophia Hayes. The coffee mug slipped from Eleanor's nerveless fingers. It shattered on the tile floor with a crash that seemed to echo forever. Brown liquid spreading like a dark omen. Eleanor's legs threatened to give out as she gripped the counter for support. What did you say? The words came out as barely more than a whisper. She mentioned something specific. Martinez continued, clearly choosing his words carefully. She said to tell you, and I quote, "Today is safe. He won the award." She insisted you'd know what that meant. Does that mean anything to you, Mrs. Hayes? Eleanor's blood turned to ice in her veins. Her gaze snapped to the newspaper on the counter, and there was Dr. Marcus Whitman's distinguished face staring back at her from the front page. His silver hair was perfectly styled, his smile radiating the confidence of a man at the pinnacle of his career. The headline proclaimed in bold letters, "Local surgeon receives National Humanitarian Award for pioneering transplant work." Dr. Whitman, Sophia's mentor, the man who had offered her daughter a prestigious internship, the last person to see Sophia before she vanished into the night 4 years ago. "I'll be there in 20 minutes, Eleanor managed to say, her voice cracking with emotion. She was already reaching for her keys with a shaking hand. "Mrs. Hayes, I should warn you," Martinez began, but Eleanor cut him off. 20 minutes, she repeated firmly and hung up as she rushed to her car. Eleanor's mind raced faster than her feet. 4 years of hiring private investigators who found nothing. 4 years of police telling her to accept that Sophia was gone, probably dead. 4 years of sleepless nights and unanswered prayers. And now, on the very day Whitman received his humanitarian award, her daughter had mysteriously returned. The timing couldn't be coincidence. Eleanor's hands shook as she started the engine. Whatever had happened to Sophia, wherever she'd been for long years, it was connected to Whitman. She was certain of it. The mountain road stretched ahead, winding through dense pine forests. Eleanor drove faster than was safe, her mind filled with questions. What had those 4 years held for her daughter? What secrets had kept her away? And why had she chosen today, of all days, to come home? The ranger station smelled of pine needles and old coffee, a combination that would forever be etched in Eleanor's memory. She burst through the heavy wooden doors, her eyes frantically scanning the room. Several rangers looked up from their desks, startled by her dramatic entrance. "Where is she?" Eleanor demanded breathlessly. Ranger Martinez, a stocky man with kind eyes and graying temples, stepped forward quickly. "Mrs. Hayes, please, come this way. She's in our break room. But I need to prepare you. Just take me to her." Eleanor interrupted, her voice tight with desperation. Martinez nodded and led her down a narrow hallway. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead, casting harsh shadows. As they walked, he spoke in a low, careful tone. She's changed, Mrs. Hayes, physically and otherwise, whatever she's been through. It's left its mark. They stopped at a door marked, staff only, through the small window. Eleanor could see a figure huddled in a gray emergency blanket near the window. The person was facing away, staring out at the forest beyond. Martinez opened the door gently. Sophia, your mother is here. The figure turned slowly, as if movement itself was painful. Eleanor's knees nearly buckled at what she saw. Those were definitely Sophia's eyes. The same warm brown with flecks of gold that Eleanor had gazed into since the day her daughter was born. But everything else was different. The soft roundness of youth had been carved away, replaced by sharp angles and hollow cheeks. Sophia's once lustrous chestnut hair now hung limp and shorter, streaked with premature gray that belonged on someone twice her age. Her skin was weathered, marked by exposure to elements and hardship. Mom. The voice was hoarse, uncertain, as if Sophia wasn't sure the words still applied. Eleanor crossed the room in 3 quick strides, maternal instinct overriding shock. She pulled her daughter into an embrace that for years of anguish had been built toward. At first, Sophia's body went rigid, every muscle tense as if preparing to flee. Then, slowly, like ice melting in spring, she relaxed into her mother's arms. Silent sobs shook her thin frame, years of suppressed emotion breaking free. My baby, Eleanor whispered, tears streaming down her face. My baby, you're alive. You're here. They stayed like that for several minutes, mother and daughter reunited, while Ranger Martinez quietly stepped out to give them privacy. Finally, Sophia pulled back slightly, though she kept hold of her mother's hands as if afraid to lose contact. How? Eleanor asked, her voice breaking. Where have you been? We searched everywhere. The police, the FBI, everyone said you were gone. Sophia's eyes darted nervously to the windows, then to the door, cataloging exits with the practiced ease of someone who'd spent years running. When she spoke, her voice was low and urgent. I've been watching, waiting for the right moment. She said, I saw Whitman in yesterday's paper, saw him premiered with that humanitarian award. He's finally lowered his guard. He thinks he's untouchable. Now, Whitman, Eleanor's confusion was evident. What does Dr. Whitman have to do with everything? Sophia interrupted, her grip on her mother's hands tightening. Mom, I have proof, everything we need to destroy him and the others. But we have to move carefully. Proof of what? Sophia, you're scaring me. What happened to you? Sophia glanced at the door again, then leaned closer to her mother. Not here. Too many ears, too many ways for word to get back to them. But I need you to know I've been planning this for months. I'd have contacts, people on the inside. A janitor at the hospital, someone I helped years ago. He told me Dad was at the medical conference in Boston this week. I knew you'd be alone. I knew it would be safe to approach you. Eleanor's mind reeled with the implications. You've been monitoring us all this time. You knew where we were. I had to, Sophia said, pain evident in her voice. I had to make sure you were safe. That they weren't using you to get to me. They? Who are they? Eleanor demanded. Sophia reached into her jacket, a worn, military surplus garment that had seen better days, and pulled out a crumpled piece of paper. On it were GPS coordinates, written in her familiar handwriting, though the letters were shakier than Eleanor remembered. Waterproof drives, Sophia explained, pressing the paper into her mother's hand. Buried at specific locations, everything about his trafficking network is documented there. The word hit Eleanor like a physical blow. Trafficking? Her voice cracked on the word. Sophia's hollow eyes met hers, and in them, Eleanor saw horrors she couldn't begin to imagine. Young medical students, Mom, organ harvesting. I escaped during a shift change, but there are others who weren't so lucky. Today, while Whitman basked in his fake glory at that award ceremony, we're going to end this. All of it. Before Eleanor could respond, Ranger Martinez knocked and re-entered, his expression apologetic but firm. Miss Hayes, I'm sorry to interrupt, but we've followed protocol. Medical transport is en route, and we've notified the authorities about your daughter's return. They'll want to conduct interviews, verify identity. No, Sophia shot to her feet, the blanket falling away to reveal how thin she'd become. Her body tense like a cornered animal ready to bolt. No authorities. Not yet. They have people everywhere, judges, cops, FBI. We can't trust anyone in the system. Martinez held up his hands peacefully. Miss, I understand you've been through something traumatic, But you don't understand anything, Sophia said, her voice hard as granite. They looked at each other, the bond forged through separation and reunion stronger than ever. Finally, Sophia nodded, then helped me contact the other survivors. If we're right, they need to know they're in danger. The surveillance footage from the super yacht Prometheus was grainy, but damning. Sophia had been right. The network's leadership had gathered for one final meeting. Through FBI drones and satellite imagery, they watched luxury helicopters delivering passengers to the 300-foot vessel anchored in international waters. 63 individuals identified so far, Chen reported, including 3 senators, a Supreme Court justice's brother, and executives from major pharmaceutical companies. The yacht's registered to a shell company in Panama, but we traced the real ownership. It belongs to Ukrainian oligarch Viktor Kozlov. They think international waters protect them, Sophia observed, studying the feed. But they're wrong. I helped write the survivor testimonies. Each one includes threats made against American citizens on American soil. That gives us jurisdiction. The FBI command center buzzed with activity as the raid was planned. Navy SEALs were being briefed, Coast Guard cutters positioned. But Eleanor noticed Sophia growing increasingly agitated. What's wrong? She asked. It's too easy. Sophia replied. They know we're watching. They have to know, which means an alarm blared. New intelligence flooded in. The yacht was a decoy, while law enforcement focused on the Prometheus. The real meeting was happening elsewhere. Where? Chen demanded. Sophia closed her eyes, thinking like the enemy. Somewhere with diplomatic immunity. Somewhere we can't touch them even if we know they're there. Her eyes snapped open. The Kozlov compound in Caracas. Venezuelan government won't extradite. Then we're screwed, an agent said. No, Sophia said firmly. We leak it. Everything. Real time. Chen looked uncertain. That could compromise ongoing operations, or it could save lives, Sophia interrupted. Make it public. Make it impossible for any government to protect them without facing international outrage. Eleanor watched her daughter orchestrate media blitz that would have made professional publicists jealous. Within an hour, news outlets worldwide had the story. Social media exploded with hashtags. Protesters gathered at Venezuelan embassies, and it worked. The pressure became too much. Venezuelan authorities, facing international condemnation, raided the Kozlov compound. The live footage was surreal. Network leaders in handcuffs, boxes of evidence being carried out, survivors' testimonies finally bringing justice. But Sophia wasn't celebrating. She stood apart, watching the screens with hollow eyes. We won, Eleanor said gently. We survived. Sophia corrected. There's a difference. That night, as the news celebrated the largest human trafficking bust in history, Sophia finally allowed herself to cry. For years of trauma, of running, of fighting, poured out in her mother's arms. It's over, Eleanor whispered. No, Sophia said through her tears. But maybe now the healing can begin. 1 year later, Survivor Care Center bustled with life and purpose. Sophia moved between examination rooms, her white coat bearing the simple title director. She'd never finished her medical degree, but her expertise in trauma survival was beyond question. Maria's kidney function is at 85%, she told Eleanor, who managed family services. She'll make a full recovery. Through the window, they watched Maria Gonzalez, the first person Sophia had saved, teaching origami to newer residents. The young woman, who'd barely survived heart extraction, was now a registered nurse. Her graduation photo prominently displayed in the common room. Reporter at the front desk. Eleanor mentioned. Another interview request. No, Sophia said automatically, then paused. Actually, yes. It's time. The 60 Minutes interview aired nationally. Sophia spoke clearly about the network, the survivors, the ongoing fight for justice. But when asked about her personal healing, she grew quiet. Every night, I check the locks 3 times. Mom does too. We have a security system that would rival Fort Knox. The nightmares haven't stopped. She looked directly at the camera. But 47 families have their children back because I survived. That has to be enough. The interview sparked new legislation, more funding, additional survivors coming forward. But its greatest impact was personal. William Turner's grandson reached out, wanting to meet the woman his grandfather saved. At the meeting, 8-year-old Michael Turner solemnly handed Sophia a drawing. It showed an angel with a mop and bucket, watching over a young woman running toward freedom. Grandma says he's watching over you still. Michael explained, and now you watch over others, like superheroes. That night, Sophia found herself in the center's memorial garden, a space she designed for reflection and healing. Other survivors often gathered here, sharing stories without judgment. Tonight, David Park sat beside her. The nightmares ever stop for you? He asked. No, but they share space with better dreams now. Eleanor appeared with hot chocolate, a ritual they developed. Mother and daughter sat together, no longer needing words to communicate their bond. The last of the Kozlovs were sentenced today. Eleanor mentioned, life without parole. I know. I'll testify at the appeals. As many times as it takes. A young woman approached hesitantly, new rival, still bearing fresh surgical scars. Sophia stood, professional mask sliding into place. I'm Sophia, she said gently. Let me show you to your room. You're safe here. As she led the woman inside, Eleanor reflected on the journey, for years of separation, months of terror, a lifetime of healing ahead. But they'd survived. More than that, they'd transformed survival into purpose. The center's wall displayed photos of every life saved, every family reunited. At the center hung William Turner's ID badge, a reminder that one moment of courage could change everything. The sun set over the mountains, painting the sky in shades of hope. Inside the center, broken people helped each other heal. Outside, the world slowly changed. One saved life at a time. Justice had come at a terrible price. The scars would never fully fade. But in this place of second chances, hope grew stronger than fear, and somewhere, perhaps, William Turner's spirit smiled, knowing his sacrifice had bloomed into something beautiful. The locks would still be checked 3 times each night. Some habits born of survival never die. But now they protected not just a women, but an entire community of survivors who learned the most important lesson of all. Even in the darkest places, humanity finds a way to shine. The end. If the wrong people find out I'm alive before we secure the evidence, we're all dead. My mother, my father, everyone who's helped me dead. Eleanor stood, placing herself between Sophia and the ranger. Please, she said to Martinez, just give us a moment. My daughter's been through hell. Let me talk to her. Martinez looked uncertain, but nodded. The ambulance will be here in 15 minutes. I'll be right outside if you need me. As the door closed behind him, Eleanor turned to her daughter. Sophia, you need medical attention. Look at you, you're malnourished, exhausted. I've survived for years on my own. Sophia interrupted. I can survive another few hours. But Mom, the evidence, if we don't secure it now, while they're all distracted by the award ceremony, we'll lose our chance. They'll destroy everything, eliminate everyone who knows the truth. Eleanor studied her daughter's face, seeing the steel beneath the exhaustion. This wasn't the idealistic medical student who left for her internship for years ago. This was a survivor, hardened by experiences Eleanor could only imagine. All right, Eleanor said finally, but we do this smart. We get you checked out first quickly, then we retrieve your evidence. Deal. Sophia hesitated, then nodded reluctantly. The hospital's compromised, but Dr. Sarah Kim in there, she's clean. I've verified. She lost her nephew to the network 3 years ago. She'll help us. As they prepared to leave, Eleanor noticed the small details she missed in the emotional reunion. The way Sophia positioned herself to see all exits. The scars on her hands, some old and faded, others disturbingly fresh. The constant vigilance in her posture, as if danger could materialize at any moment. Whatever had happened during those 4 years had transformed her daughter from a trusting medical student into something else entirely, a warrior who learned that survival meant trusting no one. But she was alive. Against all odds, Sophia had returned, as she brought the truth with her. Now they just had to live long enough to expose it. The emergency room at Mercy General was quieter than usual for a Tuesday morning, which Eleanor took as a small blessing. Dr. Sarah Kim, a woman in her 40s with intelligent eyes and gentle hands, had cleared a private examination room for them, true to Sophia's intelligence. She asked no unnecessary questions and ensured no other staff entered. Sophia, Dr. Kim said softly as she moved her stethoscope across the young woman's back. These scars tell a story. Some are surgical, precise. Others, she trailed off, her expression darkening. Others speak of violence. Sophia sat rigid on the examination table, her paper gown doing little to hide the roadmap of trauma etched on her skin. You learn to adapt when you're running for your life, she said, her voice carefully neutral. Eleanor stood in the corner, forcing herself to catalog each mark on her daughter's body. A long surgical scar ran along Sophia's left side to need to be accidental, to deliberate to be anything but intentional harm. Smaller scars peppered her arms and shoulders, some looking like defensive wounds. Your muscle development is unusual, Dr. Kim continued, gently examining Sophia's arms, specifically adapted for climbing and endurance. Your calluses suggest manual labor farming, perhaps construction. A ghost of a smile crossed Sophia's face. Both, actually. At warehouse work, fruit picking, fishing boats. You'd be amazed how many cash-only jobs exist when you know where to look. You weren't alone all this time, were you? Dr. Kim observed, noting tan lines that suggested work clothing, patterns that spoke of routine rather than random wandering. Sophia's expression softened slightly. There's a network people who don't ask questions, who understand what it means to need invisibility, homeless camps that operate like small cities, seasonal workers who accept anyone willing to work, farm owners who pay cash and don't check papers. I move every few months, always under different names: Maria, Jennifer, Susan, Ashley. Her voice grew distant. Sometimes I forgot which name I was using. Eleanor stepped closer, unable to stay silent. How did you survive the first days after you escaped? Where did you go? Sophia's eyes met her mother's, and for a moment, the mask slipped. I almost didn't. That first night, I hid in a dumpster behind a medical clinic, bleeding, terrified, certain they'd find me. But then I heard another person rifling through the medical waste. An addict, looking for anything to sell or use. She paused, lost in the memory. He was overdosing. Even half dead myself, I couldn't just watch. I used what supplies I could find, managed to stabilize him. Turned out his name was Samuel Chen. He ran a whole network of people society had thrown away. He taught me the rules of invisible survival. Rules, Eleanor prompted. Never use credit cards cash only, always. Never stay in one place longer than 3 months. Never trust anyone completely, but build networks of partial trust. Change your appearance regularly. Avoid cameras. Stay away from hospitals, police stations, government buildings, and always have 3 exit strategies. Dr. Kim pulled Eleanor aside while Sophia dressed. Her voice was low, urgent. The psychological evaluation shows remarkable resilience, coupled with severe PTSD. She's created elaborate coping mechanisms that journals she won't let go of. It's her anchor to reality. She's documented everything meticulously: dates, locations, observations. It's what kept her mind intact. Eleanor glanced at the worn notebook Sophia clutched. 4 years of survival condensed into careful notes. There's something else, Dr. Kim continued, showing Eleanor a blood test report. These results show traces of sedatives, specifically medical-grade anesthetics. Whatever happened to her initially, she was drugged with professional equipment. This wasn't random violence. This was medical. They returned to find Sophia standing by the window, her reflection ghost-like in the glass. She positioned herself to see both the door and the parking lot, always watching, always ready. He said I was perfect for the program, Sophia said suddenly, her voice hollow. Young, healthy, type O negative blood, universal donor. No local family, a scholarship student with few connections. But I saw the others, Mom, the ones who didn't make it out. Her voice cracked slightly. Their faces haunt me. Rebecca Chen, David Park, Maria Gonzalez, some made it, some didn't. We're going to stop him, Eleanor promised, moving to stand beside her daughter. We have to be smart about it, Sophia warned. Women has connections everywhere: police, judges, hospital administrators. That's why I waited until now. The humanitarian award made him overconfident. He thinks he's untouchable, that his public persona protects him. A knock interrupted them. A nurse entered with discharge papers, but something in Sophia's posture changed instantly. She went from relaxed to combat-ready in a heartbeat. That's not a real nurse, Sophia whispered urgently. Look at her badge, it's upside down. That's a signal in the network. They know I'm here. Eleanor looked again and saw what Sophia meant. The badge was indeed upside down, and now that she looked closer, the woman's scrubs didn't quite fit right, as if hastily donned. The fake nurse's hand moved toward her pocket, but Sophia was already in motion. For years of survival instincts kicked in. She grabbed a metal tray, swinging it in a perfect arc that caught the woman's wrist. Something metallic clattered to the floor, a syringe filled with clear liquid. Run! Sophia shouted, pulling her mother toward the emergency exit. Dr. Kim stood frozen in shock as Sophia and Eleanor burst through the exit door. Behind them, they could hear the fake nurse speaking rapidly into a phone. They're running. South exit. Yes, both of them. In the parking lot, Sophia didn't hesitate. Your car. Keys. Now. Eleanor fumbled her keys out as they ran. In the distance, she could see the black SUVs entering the hospital parking lot at high speed. Drive, Sophia commanded. As they dove into Eleanor's sedan, take the back roads. I know where we need to go. As Eleanor peeled out of the parking lot, her heart hammering, she caught a glimpse in the rearview mirror of men in dark suits. Converging on the hospital entrance, the hunt had begun again. But this time, Sophia wasn't running alone. Eleanor's hands gripped the steering wheel tightly as she navigated the winding back roads. Following Sophia's precise directions, her daughter sat rigid in the passenger seat, constantly checking the mirrors. Her body coiled like a spring ready to release. Left at the fallen oak, Sophia instructed, her voice steady despite their narrow escape. There, see that dirt road? Take it. Park behind those boulders about a quarter mile in. The sedan bounced over ruts and rocks, branches scraping against the sides. Finally, they reached the designated spot, hidden from the main road by massive granite boulders and thick forest. Now we walk, Sophia said, already out of the car and moving. Bring the flashlight from your glove compartment. We'll need it. They hiked through dense forest for 20 minutes, Sophia leading with the confidence of someone who'd walked this path many times. She stopped at an unremarkable patch of earth. Near a distinctive rock formation, 3 boulders leaning together like old friends sharing secrets. I created 12 burial sites, she explained, kneeling down and beginning to count paces from a small carved mark on a tree. Different states, different terrains, different types of containers. Even if they found 1 or 2, they'd never find them all. She began digging with her bare hands, the soil coming away easily. Eleanor knelt beside her, helping to clear the earth. About 18 inches down, they hit something solid, a military-grade waterproof container. This is just the first cache, Sophia said, pulling it out and brushing off the dirt. Inside, wrapped in multiple layers of plastic, were 3 USB drives and a laminated map marked with cryptic symbols. But it contains their financial records, every payoff, every bribe, every illegal organ sale. I worked as a bookkeeper for 6 months at a trucking company they used for transport. They never knew who I was. Eleanor stared at the drives, each one labeled with a date range. How did you manage to? I became invisible, Mom, Sophia interrupted, her voice matter of fact. Dyed my hair, wore glasses, gained weight, lost weight, changed my walk, my mannerisms, even my accent. The scared medical student died that first night. What survived was someone else entirely, someone who could be anyone, anywhere. They returned to the car, but Sophia insisted on taking a different route back. As they drove, she revealed more of her methodical planning. After 6 months on the run, I met a woman in Portland, elderly lady who ran internet scams. Brilliant mind, horrible ethics. But she took a liking to me after I helped her with a medical issue. She taught me about digital footprints, how to hide in plain sight online, how to create automated systems. Automated systems? Eleanor asked, taking another sharp turn on Sophia's direction. Dead man switches. If I didn't check in every 90 days, certain emails would be sent automatically, files would be released to journalists, FBI field offices, even WikiLeaks. But I learned not to trust digital systems entirely. They could be hacked, corrupted, destroyed. That's why I created physical backups. Sophia pulled out the map, studying it in the dim light. Some caches are with people who don't even know what they're holding. Remember your cousin Martha, who collects vintage books? Eleanor's eyes widened. Martha, in Portland? Check the 3rd edition Steinbeck she bought 2 years ago at that estate sale in Seattle. There's a micro drive hidden in the spine. She has no idea, just thinks she got a good deal on a rare book. You were that close? Eleanor's voice broke. You could have. No, Sophia said firmly. Every time I thought about contacting you, I remembered what they did to the other girl who tried to escape, Patricia Williams. They killed her parents first, made her watch, then harvested her organs while she was still conscious. I couldn't risk you and Dad. The casual way Sophia delivered this horrific information made Eleanor's stomach turn. Her daughter had learned to speak of atrocities as simple facts, a defense mechanism against the trauma They reached an abandoned cabin that Sophia had marked as a safe house. Inside, despite the dust and neglect, it was clear someone had prepared this space. Emergency supplies were hidden in various locations, and Sophia knew exactly where to find each one. She pulled up loose floorboards with practiced ease, revealing more evidence photographs, medical records, shipping manifests. The photos were the worst young people in medical scrubs, all smiling at some orientation event, unaware that many of them would never leave the program alive. Look at this. Sophia spread documents on the dusty table. Every victim was chosen specifically. Young, healthy, often scholarship students or those estranged from families. International students were especially vulnerable. Fewer people to ask questions when they disappeared. Eleanor studied the shipping manifest. These are dated just last month. They never stopped. Sophia confirmed. Women would mentor them, gain their trust, offer them exclusive opportunities. Then came the special program that required signing extensive NDA letters, living in provided housing, limited outside contact. By the time they realized what was happening, it was too late. How many? Eleanor asked, though she wasn't sure she wanted to know. 43 that I could verify, Sophia said, her voice clinical. 15 never made it out alive. The rest. She paused, sorting through photos. Some are still in facilities, kept sedated for repeated harvesting blood, plasma, bone marrow. Others were sold overseas. I tracked shipping containers to Eastern Europe, Southeast Asia, the Middle East. Organs to the highest bidder, no questions. Asked. Eleanor felt sick. The authorities have been paid off. Sophia interrupted. That's what this drive contains: recorded conversations, video evidence of money changing hands. 3 judges, to police chiefs, even an FBI agent. Whitman was smart, but success made him sloppy. He started believing his own press, thought his humanitarian reputation made him untouchable. A car engine sounded in the distance. Sophia immediately tensed, moving to the window with fluid grace, through the dirty glass. She watched the road carefully. We need to leave, she decided. Could be nothing, but I didn't survive for years by taking chances. Grab everything. As they stuffed evidence into bags, Eleanor marveled at her daughter's transformation. The bright, trusting girl who left for her internship was gone, replaced by this hypervigilant warrior who'd spent for years gathering ammunition for this very moment. Where to now? Eleanor asked as they slipped out the back door. To see the only lawyer I trust. Sophia replied, the one who helped me fake my death certificate. Marcus Patterson. He's been holding some of my evidence. The pieces too important to bury. It's time to put it all together. As they drove away, Eleanor glanced back at the cabin. How many safe houses did Sophia have? How many times had she barely escaped capture? The questions were endless. But one thing was clear: her daughter had become someone capable of taking down a monster, even if it had cost her everything to do so. The law office of Marcus Patterson occupied the top floor of a converted Victorian house, its windows offering panoramic views of the valley below. The building stood like a sentinel, painted in muted grays and blues, with gingerbread trim that spoke of a more elegant era. Eleanor had driven past it hundreds of times over the years, never knowing it held secrets about her daughter's disappearance. Patterson himself defied Eleanor's expectations. Instead of the sharp-suited attorney she'd imagined, a small, nervous man in his 60s greeted them. He wore a rumpled cardigan over a simple shirt, thick glasses that magnified worried eyes, and his hands trembled slightly as he poured tea from an antique pot. The office smelled of old books and lavender, his late wife's favorite scent. He'd explain later. I've been expecting you, he said quietly, his voice carrying a slight tremor. He glanced at Sophia with a mixture of relief and concern. When I saw the news about Whitman's award ceremony this morning, I knew you'd surface. I've been preparing since dawn. Eleanor's protective instincts flared. You helped her fake her death. The accusation came out sharper than intended. Patterson adjusted his glasses, a nervous habit. I helped her survive, Mrs. Hayes. There's a significant difference. He moved to an ancient safe hidden behind a portrait of Lady Justice, his fingers working the combination with practiced ease. Sophia came to me 3 months after her escape. He paused, choosing his words carefully. She was in very bad shape, broken ribs, infected wounds, severely malnourished. But her mind was sharp as a surgical scalpel. She knew exactly what she needed. Tell her about the insurance policy, Sophia said softly, accepting the tea with hands that barely shook, a vast improvement from years past. Ah, yes. Patterson pulled out a sealed envelope. The paper yellowed with age. The date stamp showed for years ago, just weeks after Sophia's disappearance. Your daughter created what she called a life insurance policy, not the monetary kind, but something far more valuable, evidence that would be automatically released if she disappeared permanently. The problem was, she discovered Whitman's network had skilled hackers. Digital dead man switches could be disabled, corrupted, erased. So we went analog, Sophia continued, warming her hands on the teacup. Physical drops, human couriers who didn't know what they carried. Patterson held the master list, but even he didn't know all the locations. Compartmentalized information, Spycraft 101. The lawyer handed Eleanor the envelope with shaking hands. Open it. She instructed me to give this to you, and I quote, when she returned or after 5 years, whichever came first. Inside, Eleanor found photographs that stopped her heart. Pictures of herself and her husband at various locations. Over the past 4 years, grocery stores, medical conferences, their anniversary dinner at their favorite restaurant last year. Some were taken from a distance, others closer, but all showed them going about their daily lives, unaware they were being watched. You were watching us? Eleanor's voice broke on the words. Not me directly, Sophia explained, tears threatening, but not quite falling. I paid people, homeless veterans mostly, people society overlooks. They'd take photos, confirm you were safe, report any suspicious activity around you. Every time I wanted to come home, I'd look at these photos. You were safe because they thought I was dead. That had to be enough. Patterson pulled out more documents, his movements careful and precise. The legal situation is complex. Officially, Sophia Hayes died in a hiking accident 4 years ago. Body never recovered, but enough evidence was planted to make it believable. Dr. Whitman himself signed off on the death certificate. He was so eager to close that chapter, to eliminate the loose end. But now that I'm back, Sophia added, setting down her cup, he knows his empire is threatened. A ghost with evidence is his worst nightmare. There's more. Patterson continued, producing a thick folder that he handled like it might explode. 3 other survivors have contacted me over the years. They're willing to testify, but they're terrified, Dan, with good reason. One is in witness protection. Unofficial, arranged through contacts who believe us. Another is living under an assumed name in Canada. The third, he paused, pain crossing his weathered features. She didn't make it. Suicide 2 years ago, but she left a video testimony. Detailed, damning. Eleanor watched the lawyer's hand shake more pronouncedly as he handled the documents. You're afraid to, she observed. Terrified, Patterson admitted without shame. But some things are worth the fear. My daughter died of kidney failure 15 years ago. She was on a waiting list, following all the rules, doing everything right. Meanwhile, wealthy clients were getting organs within weeks through private channels. His voice hardened. I started investigating, which led me to Whitman's network. This isn't just professional for me, it's deeply personal. So this is revenge, Eleanor asked. This is justice, Patterson corrected. For my Sarah, for Sophia. For all of them, Sophia stood abruptly, pacing the small office like a caged predator. We need to move fast. My contact at the hospital said Whitman's been asking questions, pulling old personnel files. He's trying to figure out how much I know, who might have helped me. I prepared everything for the FBI, Patterson said, gesturing to several boxes, stacked in the corner. But we need to go to the right people. Agent Michelle Chen in the Seattle office, she's clean. Lost her nephew to organ trafficking 5 years ago. She's been building a case independently, working outside normal channels. When Eleanor asked, feeling the urgency building, tomorrow morning. But tonight, you both need to disappear. I've arranged a safe house. The lights suddenly cut out in the darkness. Eleanor heard Sophia's sharp intake of breath, then movement quick, practiced, silent. Her daughter's hand found hers, squeezing once in warning. They found us, Sophia whispered. Patterson, the backup drives, already moved this morning. He whispered back, his voice steady despite the fear. My paralegal took them to the secondary location. Go. Backstairs. My car is in the alley, keys under the visor. As their eyes adjusted to the darkness, Eleanor could hear vehicles surrounding the building. Multiple engines, doors slamming, muffled voices coordinating. This wasn't a random power outage, this was a tactical assault. They felt their way through the darkness, Sophia leading with the confidence of someone who mapped every escape route in advance. Behind them, Patterson's voice was calm, almost conversational. "I'll buy you time. Go. They'll kill you," Eleanor protested. "I'm 73 years old with terminal cancer," Patterson replied quietly. "I've got 6 months at best. Let me make them count. Go." They reached the back stairs just as the front door exploded inward. Flashlight beams cut through the darkness above them, and Eleanor could hear boots on hardwood, professional and coordinated dotting. The alley, Patterson's unremarkable sedan waited as promised. As Sophia started the engine, Eleanor looked back to see armed men flooding into the building. Patterson's voice carried through an open window, steady and defiant. "Gentlemen, I believe. You'll need a warrant for that." Then they were driving, Sophia navigating the dark streets with preternatural calm, while Eleanor's heart threatened to burst from her chest. "He's going to die," Eleanor said. "He's going to be a hero," Sophia corrected, taking a sharp turn. "Patterson made copies of everything, even if they kill him, even if they burn his office. The evidence survives. He made sure of that," but Eleanor could see the pain in her daughter's eyes. Another person sacrificing themselves for the truth. Another death on the altar of justice. Where now? Eleanor asked as sirens began to wail in the distance. "To the one place they won't expect," Sophia said. "We're going to hide in plain sight. There's someone I need you to meet, someone who's been preparing for this day as long as I have." The safe house was a modest apartment above a 24-hour laundromat in the industrial district. The constant rumble of washing machines provided white noise that masked conversations, and the steam from the vents below created a fog that obscured the windows. Eleanor hadn't slept, spending the night watching her daughter organize evidence with military precision, creating multiple copies, preparing for every contingency dot at 9 a.m. sharp. Eleanor's phone buzzed. The caller ID showed the hospital, and her blood ran cold. "Don't answer," Sophia warned, looking up from her work. But Eleanor had already accepted the call, drawn by a mixture of fear and curiosity. "Mrs. Hayes?" The voice was professionally warm, cultured, with the practiced tone of someone used to delivering difficult news. "This is Dr. Whitman. I heard the most extraordinary news about Sophia. As her former mentor, I'm deeply concerned about her welfare. I'm actually at Seattle General right now for a board meeting. Could we meet? I think there might be some serious misunderstandings we need to clear up." Sophia moved quickly, pressing the speaker button so they could both hear. She held up a finger to her lips, then gestured for Eleanor to continue. "What kind of misunderstandings, Dr. Whitman?" Eleanor managed, fighting to keep her voice steady. There was a pause, then a sigh that sounded genuinely pained. "Well, these wild accusations that seem to be circulating. You know how rumors spread in hospitals. Someone mentioned organ trafficking. Can you imagine me, of all people? I've spent my entire career saving lives, pioneering new transplant techniques. I'm worried Sophia might be suffering from some form of psychological break. For years missing, living rough, that takes a severe toll on the mind." "Where exactly did you hear these rumors?" Eleanor asked, following Sophia's hand signals. Another pause. This one longer. "Oh, concerned colleagues. You know how word travels in medical circles. I understand she was admitted for evaluation yesterday. The DNA test must have been such a relief for you. Proof positive it's really her, not someone taking advantage of a grieving mother." Sophia's eyes narrowed dangerously. Only hospital staff would know about the DNA test. Women had just confirmed their leak. "Listen, Eleanor, may I call you?" "Eleanor," Whitman continued, his voice taking on a more personal tone. "I'm just 3 hours away. I could drive up, perhaps help assess Sophia's condition. I have extensive experience with trauma patients. Whatever story she's told you, we need to consider her mental state. Traumatic experiences can create false memories, elaborate fantasies that feel completely real to the victim. That's kind of you, but I insist." Whitman interrupted smoothly. "In fact, I'm already on my way. She was such a promising student. To think of her living rough all these years, paranoid, constructing elaborate fantasies to explain her disappearance. It's heartbreaking. Sometimes the mind creates villains where none exist, especially when trying to process trauma." The line went dead. Sophia was already moving, packing evidence with swift efficiency. 3 hours is a lie. If he's calling from Seattle General, he's 40 minutes away maximum. We need to know. Eleanor stood firm, surprising herself with her conviction. We're done running. Let him come. Mom, you don't understand what he's capable of. I understand perfectly. Eleanor pulled out her phone, but Agent Chan is already on her way. Patterson confirmed it before last night. If Whitman shows up here, we'll have witnesses. We'll have protection. Sophia looked at her mother with new respect. You've changed. You're not the only one who learned to survive these for years, Eleanor replied. They prepared carefully. Sophia hid the most crucial evidence while keeping some visible bait for Whitman. Eleanor positioned her phone to record, while Sophia set up the backup devices in hidden locations. 35 minutes later, footsteps echoed in the stairwell. 3 knocks came at the door, polite, measured, the knock of someone who expected to be welcomed. Eleanor opened the door to find Dr. Marcus Whitman looking exactly as he did in newspaper photos. Distinguished silver hair swept back from a high forehead, kind blue eyes behind designer glasses, a gentle smile that had reassured countless patients. He wore a conservative charcoal suit with a medical caduceus pin on the lapel and carried a leather medical bag that probably cost more than most people's cars. Every inch the humanitarian award winner, Eleanor, thank you for seeing me. His voice was warm, concerned, grandfatherly. His gaze swept the apartment in one quick motion, noting exits, windows, and the evidence boxes visible on the table. Is Sophia here? I've been so worried. She's resting, Eleanor lied smoothly. Of course. The poor girl must be exhausted. He entered without waiting for permission. His movements casual but precise, like a predator surveying new territory. You know, I never stopped looking for her. Hired private investigators, consulted with missing persons experts, even brought in a psychic at one point, desperate times, and all that. To think she was out there all this time, alone, afraid. She wasn't alone, Eleanor said carefully, watching his reactions. Whitman's eyes sharpened for just a moment before the mask of concern slipped back into place. No, well, that's good. Support systems are important for survival. Though I wonder what kind of people take in a traumatized young woman without asking questions or alerting authorities. He moved toward the evidence boxes with studied casualness, like someone approaching a wild animal. What's all this? Sophia's documentation from her time away. Fascinating. He pulled out a chair and sat with practiced ease, his body language open and non-threatening. The mind's ability to create elaborate narratives as a coping mechanism never ceases to amaze me. You know, false memories can seem incredibly real to trauma victims. They construct detailed stories to explain their experiences, often casting someone they trusted as a villain. It's textbook psychology, really. His phone buzzed. He glanced at it, and for just a moment, his mask slipped completely. Whatever the message said, it wasn't good news. His jaw tightened, and a muscle in his cheek twitched. Expecting someone? Eleanor asked innocently. Just the hospital. He recovered smoothly. You know how it is even on days off. The calls never stop. He stood abruptly, the grandfather act dropping a few degrees. Eleanor, I need you to understand something. Whatever Sophia thinks happened, whatever she's told you, none of it will hold up under scrutiny. Traumatized minds aren't reliable witnesses. Their testimony would be torn apart by any competent attorney. He moved closer, and Eleanor caught a whiff of expensive cologne, masking something sharp or fierce sweat. But if she comes forward with these fantasies, he continued, his tone hardening, it won't just destroy my reputation. It will devastate dozens of families who received life-saving organs through legitimate channels. I facilitated. Can you imagine their pain? Wondering if their loved ones' gifts were somehow tainted by these delusions. The threat was subtle, but clear. Pursue this, and he'd drag innocent transplant recipients into the scandal, make them question the legitimacy of their life-saving surgeries. I should check on Sophia, Eleanor said, needing distance from his oppressive presence. Actually, Whitman said, taking a step to block her path, I was hoping to see her myself. Professional assessment, you understand. I could provide documentation of her mental state, help ensure she gets the treatment she clearly needs. Sometimes, his voice dropped to an almost whisper, people in her condition can be a danger to themselves or others. That's when Sophia stepped out from the bedroom. The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. Hello, Dr. Whitman, Sophia said, her voice steady as surgical steel. She changed into professional clothes, a simple blazer and slacks. That made her look more like the medical student he'd once known. Her hair was pulled back severely, and she stood with the careful posture of someone ready for anything. Whitman's composure flickered for just a moment before reassembling into something. That might have been pleasure. Sophia, my dear girl, you. Look. He paused, clearly searching for the right word. Well, considering the circumstances. 4 years of clean living will do that, Sophia replied, moving to the kitchenette with deliberate calm. Coffee. I remember exactly how you take it. 2 sugars, no cream. You were very particular about that. You remember. His smile didn't reach his eyes, which tracked her every movement like a hawk watching a mouse, always so attentive to detail. It's what made you perfect for medical school. The pause was deliberate, loaded with meaning that made Eleanor's skin crawl. Among other things, Sophia agreed, pouring water into the coffee maker with hands that didn't shake. My blood type, for instance, O negative. Universal donor. You mentioned that quite often during my internship. Eleanor watched the careful dance between them, predator and prey circling, neither certain who held which role. The tension in the room was suffocating. Tell me, Whitman said, accepting the coffee cup with a practiced smile, where exactly have you been? Your mother mentioned you weren't alone. That's concerning, given your mental state. Here and there, Sophia replied vaguely, pouring her own cup. Amazing how invisible you become when society doesn't want to see you. Homeless camps, migrant communities, seasonal workers, people who understand discretion must have been difficult. Whitman mused, taking a sip. A girl with your education, your background, reduced to. He gestured vaguely, letting the implication hang. Surviving. Sophia supplied. Yes, it was difficult, but I learned so much, like how many missing persons are never properly investigated. How easy it is to transport unconscious patients across state lines if you have the right paperwork. How organ rejection rates drop dramatically when donors are matched in advance. When you have time to prepare the recipient. Whitman sat down, his cup with excessive care. Eleanor noticed his hand trembled slightly. You always did have an active imagination, he said. Remember your third-year thesis on organ allocation ethics? So passionate, so idealistic, so naive about how the world really works. Was I naive when I found the secondary surgical suite? Sophia's voice remained conversational, but Eleanor could see the tension in her shoulders. When I saw the refrigerated trucks arriving at 3 a.m., when Rebecca Chen died on that table, Whitman's face went very still. Rebecca Chen left the program. Family emergency. I have the documentation. Rebecca Chen's kidneys went to 2 different buyers. Sophia stated flatly, Gerald Morrison in Seattle and Patricia Vance in Portland. I have the shipping manifests. I have the surgical notes in your handwriting. Eleanor saw Whitman's hand move toward his jacket pocket, then stop. He was calculating, reassessing, the mask beginning to crack at the edges. You know, he said conversationally, as if discussing the weather, I've been monitoring your mother quite closely these past years. Coffee shops, grocery stores, those Tuesday evening book clubs. She has such regular habits. It would be tragic if something happened to her. Car accidents are so common on mountain roads. Mom, Sophia said without looking away from Whitman, show him your phone. Eleanor held up her device, displaying an active live stream. The viewer count showed 847 and climbing. Agent Chen and 6 federal agents are watching this feed, Eleanor said, proud of how steady her voice sounded. They're in the laundromat downstairs, waiting for our signal. Whitman stood slowly, his urbane mask finally shattering completely. Entrapment. Nothing I've said constitutes. Sit down, Sophia commanded, her voice cutting like a scalpel. We're not finished. For the first time, real fear flashed in Whitman's eyes. He sat. 43 victims, Sophia continued, pulling out a folder. I'd have names, dates, buyers. I have recordings of you negotiating prices. Did you know the surgical suit's intercom system records everything when activated? I have photos of you performing illegal surgeries. But most importantly, I have Anna Morrison. Whitman went white as paper. Anna is dead. The boat accident. Anna is in FBI custody. Sophia interrupted. Has been for 6 months. She's been very cooperative. Provided details about the network structure, the international connections, the government contracts. Did you really think you could run an organ harvesting ring from a yacht in international waters? Forever, the transformation in Whitman was complete. The distinguished surgeon was gone, replaced by something cornered and desperate. You stupid little girl, he hissed, spittle flying. Do you have any idea what you've done? The people I work for, the people who really run this operation, they don't leave loose ends. You think you're safe because of a live stream. They have resources you can't imagine. The Kozlov family? Sophia asked mildly, Ukrainian mob out of Seattle? Or are you referring to your government contacts? The CIA operatives who needed off-the-books organ replacements for their assets? Whitman's face went from white to gray. That's right. Sophia continued. I know about all of them. 4 years is a long time to gather intelligence. Doctor, long. Enough to map your entire network. Whitman lunged for his pocket, but Sophia was faster. The coffee cup shattered against his hand, hot liquid scalding his skin. As he recoiled with a cry of pain, the apartment door burst open. FBI. Nobody move. Agent Michelle Chen led the tactical team, her weapon trained on Whitman. Behind her, 6 agents fanned out, securing the room with practiced efficiency. Double quotes Dr. Marcus Whitman. Chen announced formally, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit murder, organ trafficking, and violation of federal RICO statutes. As they cuffed him, Whitman looked at Sophia with pure hatred. This isn't over. You have no idea how deep this goes. They'll come for you, all of you. Let them come. Sophia replied coldly, I've been preparing for 4 years. As they led him away, Whitman made one last statement, loud enough for the live stream to catch. Check the Morrison Medical Center basement. You'll find the others, the ones she couldn't save. Then he was gone, leaving mother and daughter standing in the sudden quiet of the apartment. Eleanor realized her daughter had orchestrated this entire scene of coffee to keep his hands busy, the positioning to prevent escape, even the live stream, to ensure everything was documented. 4 years of survival had taught Sophia to be 10 steps ahead of everyone else. But the haunted look in her daughter's eyes reminded Eleanor that winning didn't erase the scars, and Whitman's final words suggested this was far from over. The FBI safe house felt sterile compared to the apartment above the laundromat. Agent Chen sat across from Sophia and Eleanor, digital recorders and notepads spread between them. The initial victory of Whitman's arrest had faded into the grinding reality of building an airtight case. We need everything, Chen said, her voice gentle but insistent. Every detail, every contact, every close call. The prosecutor wants to make sure nothing gets thrown out on technicalities. Sophia had been talking for 3 hours straight, her voice growing hoarse as she systematically laid out 4 years of evidence. Eleanor watched her daughter recount horrors with clinical detachment, necessary armor against memories that could destroy her. Whitman mentioned people he worked for. Eleanor interrupted during a brief pause. Who are they? How big is this network? Chen exchanged glances with her partner, Agent Torres. The look made Eleanor's stomach drop. That's what we're trying to establish, Chen admitted. Whitman lawyered up immediately. Henderson, Klein and Associates. Mob lawyers, Sophia said flatly, no surprise in her voice. They represent the Kozlov family. I've seen their names on documents. They handle the money laundering side. Russian mob. Chen leaned forward, suddenly intense. Ukrainian, actually, but yes. Sophia rubbed her temples, exhaustion beginning to show. They run organs through Eastern Europe. Whitman was their American supplier. But there's another level above them: legitimate businesses, government connections. The Kozlovs are just middle management too. You're certain? Torres spoke for the first time, his voice skeptical. I spent 6 months working in one of their front companies, Sophia replied. Janitor at first, then bookkeeping. When they realized I had skills, they never knew who I was. I was just another invisible person cleaning their offices, filing their papers, seeing everything. Chen's phone buzzed. She glanced at it, and her expression darkened. Whitman's transport was just attacked. 3 guards dead. Whitman's missing. Eleanor felt the blood drain from her face. How is that possible? He was in federal custody, professional extraction team. Chen said grimly, military precision. Someone very powerful wants him silenced or saved. Silenced, Sophia said, with certainty. He's a liability now. They'll interrogate him to find out what he revealed, then dispose of him. Standard protocol. How do you know their protocols? Torres asked suspiciously. Sophia met his gaze steadily. Because I spent 4 years studying them. Know your enemy, Agent Torres. It's the only way to survive. Another agent burst in. We've got movement. Multiple vehicles converging on this location. ETA 15 minutes. Chen was already moving. Evacuation protocol. Now, As they rushed to gather essentials, Eleanor noticed something odd. Torres was hanging back, his hand near his weapon, but not quite drawing it. Sophia noticed too. Agent Chen. Sophia said calmly while packing. How long has Agent Torres been with your unit? 6 months, Chen replied distractedly. Transferred from Miami. Why? Just curious. The Kozlovs have a strong presence in Miami. Sophia continued packing, but Eleanor saw her tense. Torres, you mentioned intercepted calls this morning. What? Time exactly? Around 8:15. Torres replied, his eyes narrowing. Interesting. Women called my mother at 9 o'clock. 45 minutes to coordinate a response? Sophia looked up slowly. That's very efficient. Almost like someone told him exactly where we were. The room went deadly still. Torres' hand moved toward his weapon, but Sophia was already in motion. She swept the hot coffee pot from the table in a perfect arc. It caught Torres in the face as Chen drew her gun. Nobody move. Chen commanded, but Torres was already firing. The next seconds were chaos. Sophia pulled Eleanor down as bullets shattered the window. Chen returned fire, catching Torres in the shoulder. He staggered but kept shooting, backing toward the door. His vest had stopped Chen's shot from being fatal. He's wearing armor, Chen shouted. Diving for cover, more agents flooded in. Torres tried to turn his gun on himself, but was tackled before he could pull the trigger. As they subdued him, he screamed, something in Ukrainian. Skin everything, Chen ordered, breathing hard. This location's compromised. We have minutes at most. Sophia was already at the window, watching the street. 2 vans, approaching from opposite directions. They'll try to box us in. They rushed to the garage where an armored SUV waited. As they pulled out, Eleanor saw the vans converging on the safe house. The escape route turned into a high-speed chase through Seattle streets. Torres had access to everything, Chen said grimly, taking a hard right that threw Eleanor against the door. Every safe house, every witness location, every piece of evidence. We have to assume it's all compromised. The evidence caches. Eleanor gasped as they took another sharp turn. They don't know about all of them, Sophia said. I gave Torres an incomplete map. Misdirection. The real locations are. She grabbed the wheel, jerking it left just as bullets starred the windshield where Chen's head had been. Sniper. Parking garage, 3rd level. Chen floored it. The engine. Roaring. Behind them, the vans gave chase while more shots rang out. They were being herded. Eleanor realized with growing horror, driven toward a kill zone. There, Sophia pointed to a construction site. Cut through. The SUV smashed through temporary barriers, bouncing over rough terrain. The vans followed, but their lower clearance slowed them. They emerged onto a service road, momentarily clear. We can't go to any official location, Chen said, checking her mirrors. If Torres was turned, there might be others. I know a place, Sophia said. Someone who owes me. Head for the waterfront. Pier 47. As they drove, Eleanor watched her daughter direct their escape with cold efficiency, for years of running had prepared her for this. But as sirens wailed in the distance and the Seattle skyline blurred past, Eleanor wondered if they'd ever truly be safe again. Why didn't Torres just kill us at the safe house? Eleanor asked. Because they need me alive. Sophia answered, for now. They need to know where all the evidence is hidden. Who else knows the truth? Once they have that, she didn't need to finish. The waterfront district loomed ahead, fog rolling in from Puget Sound. Somewhere in that mist was either salvation or another trap, but they were out of options. The waterfront warehouse smelled of salt and machine oil, a combination that would forever remind Eleanor of desperation. Sophia led them through a maze of shipping containers to a small office, where a grizzled man in his 60s waited, a shotgun laid across his lap with casual familiarity. Sophia, his weathered face cracked with disbelief, deep lines etching, brown eyes that had seen too much. Jesus Christ, girl, I thought you were dead. Everyone said you were dead. Not yet, Murphy, Sophia replied, allowing exhaustion to creep into her voice for the first time. We need your boat. Murphy's eyes swept over Eleanor and Agent Chen, cataloging Chen's badge. The blood on her sleeve where flying glass had cut deep, the Honda look they all wore. Feds. The word came out neutral, neither accusation nor welcome. The good kind, Sophia said. The kind being hunted by the bad kind. Please, Murphy, they killed Anna. His face transformed, hardening like cooling steel. Anna's dead. The words came out rough, pain. 2 years ago, they made it look like suicide. Sophia's voice stayed level, but Eleanor heard the pain underneath. Same people are coming for us now. Maybe 10 minutes behind. Murphy stood without hesitation. Decision made. Boats fueled. Take the Sarah's dream. She's the blue trawler at the end. Keys are in the cabin. He pulled an ancient satellite phone from a drawer, tossing it to Sophia with practiced ease. Emergency only. GPS is disabled, but she'll get you where you need to go. They could hear vehicles approaching, multiple engines, tires on gravel, the sound of a closing trap. Murphy chambered around with smooth efficiency. Go. I'll buy you time. And Sophia? He met her eyes. Anna would be proud. Now get moving. They ran through the fog toward the docks, Eleanor's feet slipping on the wet planks. Gunfire erupted behind them, Murphy's shotgun booming, answered by automatic weapons. The firefight intensified as they reached the boat. The Sarah's dream was a weathered fishing vessel. Her blue paint faded, but her lines speaking of seaworthiness. Sophia had the engine running before Eleanor and Chen were fully aboard. The diesel rumbling to life with a cough of black smoke. Cast off, Sophia commanded. Already backing away from the dock, Eleanor fumbled with the thick ropes, her hands clumsy with fear, while Chen provided cover fire toward the warehouse. Men in tactical gear emerged from the fog, weapons raised. Bullets sparked off the metal hull, the sound like angry hornets. Chen emptied her magazine, forcing them to take cover behind containers. The boat lurched away from the dock, gap widening. In the pilot house, Sophia pushed the throttle forward, the engine responding with a deep growl. They headed for open water, fog swallowing them like a protective shroud. Where are we going? Chen demanded, reloading with practiced efficiency. Shaw Island. There's a ranger station with a radio tower. We can call for backup that isn't compromised. Sophia checked their fuel gauge, did quick calculations. 4 hours in these waters, maybe 5 if the weather turns. Eleanor looked back at the shrinking waterfront. Smoke rose from where Murphy had made his stand. Black against gray sky. Murphy survived 3 wars and a mob hits. Sophia interrupted, but her knuckles were white on the wheel. He'll be fine. The words sounded like prayer more than certainty. Chen tried her phone, then her radio. Nothing. They're jamming communications. Professional operation. Then we're on our own until Shaw Island. Sophia adjusted their heading, reading the waters with surprising skill. Mom, there are life jackets under the bench. Chen, check the cabin for supplies. We need to inventory what we have. For an hour, they traveled in tense silence, the boat cutting through choppy waters. Eleanor watched her daughter navigate like someone who'd done this before, and realized there were still years of stories she hadn't heard, skills learned in desperation, knowledge paid for in blood, and fear. Boat on R6, Chen announced from the stern, coming fast. Big engines. Sophia checked the radar, her expression grim. To boats, they're trying to bracket us. Cut off escape routes. She pulled out charts, studying quickly. We can't outrun them in open water. Not in this tub. What about the Coast Guard? Eleanor asked, fighting down panic. By the time they respond, we'll be fish food. Sophia traced a route on the chart with one finger, but here devil's teeth. Rocks just below the surface. Local fishermen know the channels, but strangers. She smiled grimly. Let's see how badly they want us. That's suicide in these conditions, Chen protested, looking at the churning waters ahead. So is letting them catch us. Sophia changed course sharply. Mom, tie yourself to something solid. Use the safety lines. Chen, watch for rocks. This is going to get rough. The pursuing boats were gaining. Close enough now to see our men on their decks. The first shots rang out, bullets splashing into the water near their stern. The sound was different over water flatter, more ominous. Hold on. Sophia yanked the wheel hard right, then left. The boat heeling dangerously. They were in the devil's teeth now. Jagged rocks lurking just beneath the surface like maritime landmines. Behind them, one pursuer tried to follow their exact path. Eleanor heard the grinding shriek of fiberglass on stone, saw the boat lurch and list heavily to port. Men in tactical gear jumped into the freezing water as their vessel began its death spiral. The second boat held back, trying to circle around the rocks. Sophia used the time gained to push deeper into the treacherous waters, every wave threatening to dash them against hidden stones. There. Chen pointed to a narrow passage between the towering rocks. Is that even wide enough? One way to find out. Sophia aimed for the gap, the boat side scraping barnacles and kelp as they squeezed through. They emerged into a small natural harbor, temporarily hidden from view by walls of stone. "We can't stay here," Chen said unnecessarily. "They'll find another way around. Don't need to stay." Sophia was already working, pulling up floorboards in the cabin with practiced efficiency. "Just need time to activate Plan B." She revealed a hidden compartment Murphy's special modifications. Inside were emergency supplies, fake IDs, cash, in various currencies, and a military-grade satellite beacon. "This will broadcast our location to every agency in the Pacific Northwest," Sophia explained, activating it with steady hands, including ones the Kozlovs haven't bought. "Coast Guard, Navy, even Canadian forces. Everyone will know where we are." "How long until help arrives?" Eleanor asked, trying to keep the fear from her voice. 40 minutes if we're lucky. 20 if. There's a cutter nearby." The second pursuit boat appeared at the harbor entrance. Too large to follow through the passage, men were already deploying smaller inflatable boats, outboard motors whining like angry wasps. "They're coming," Chen stated. The obvious, checking her ammunition, 2 magazines left. Sophia handed her mother a flare gun. Murphy kept extras. "Aim for their fuel tanks. Even if you miss, it'll make them think twice." As the inflatables approached, the 3 women took defensive positions. Chen's precise shots took out the motor on the lead boat, sending it spinning. In useless circles, Eleanor's first flare went wide, but the bright trail made the attackers hesitate, buying precious seconds. 20 minutes until help, Sophia announced, firing her own flare. This one found its mark, igniting one attacker's jacket. He dove into the water, screaming, while his companions pulled back to regroup, but more boats were coming, and their ammunition was running low. "The Kozlovs had sent a small army," Sophia, Chen said quietly, down to her last magazine. "We might not make it 20 minutes, then we make them pay for every second," Sophia replied, steel in her voice. Eleanor looked at her daughter scarred, hardened, but unbroken, and felt a fierce pride. They'd fight together, whatever came. Then, from the northwest, came salvation, the distinctive thrum of military helicopters. The Coast Guard helicopters arrived like avenging angels, their searchlights turning the twilight water into pools of harsh white illumination. The Kozlov boats scattered like roaches exposed to light, but 2 were intercepted immediately by fast-moving cutters. That seemed to materialize from the mist. 3 souls aboard, 1 injured federal agent, the rescue swimmer reported into his radio as he descended on a wire, the downwash from the rotors churning the water into froth. Within minutes, they were being winched up into the helicopter's belly, the harbor falling away beneath them as they flew over the water. Eleanor saw the full scope of what they'd escaped. 5 boats had been hunting them. A coordinated kill, team that must have cost hundreds of thousands to deploy. Below, Coast Guard cutters were closing in on the fleeing vessels, their lights painting the water in reds and blues. "Where to, ma'am?" the pilot asked Chen through the intercom. "Federal building," Chen started, then stopped abruptly. "No, wait. If Torres was turned, there might be others. We can't trust anyone in the system right now." "The mountain station," Sophia said suddenly, raising her voice over the roar noise. "Pine Ridge, where I first returned. It's isolated, defensible, and the rangers are clean. I spent weeks verifying before I went there." Chen nodded agreement. "Do it." The flight took 30 minutes through gathering darkness. As they approached Pine Ridge, Eleanor noticed something that made her blood run cold. The station's lights were off. Vehicles were parked haphazardly in the lot, doors left open as if abandoned in haste. "Circle once," Chen ordered the pilot, her hand moving to her weapon. "Something's not right." That's when they saw him. Dr. Whitman stood in the clearing, illuminated by the helicopter's searchlight like an actor on stage. He wasn't alone. 6 men in tactical gear surrounded him, and they had hostages, the 2 rangers who'd helped Sophia that morning, forced to their knees with guns to their heads. "How?" Eleanor breathed. "He was extracted from federal custody because he wanted to be," Sophia said, understanding flooding her features. "This was planned. He knew we'd come here. It's where I started this whole thing." The radio crackled to life. "FBI helicopter. Land immediately or the hostages die. You have 30 seconds to comply." Chen grabbed the radio. "This is federal property. You're surrounded. Release the hostages," and a gunshot cut her off. One of the rangers cried out, clutching his shoulder as blood spread across his uniform. That was his shoulder, Whitman's voice came through clearly. The next one goes through his head. Land now. We can't, Chen said. It's a trap. They'll kill everyone. They'll kill them anyway, Sophia said, her voice hollow. She turned to the pilot. Land, but keep the rotor spinning. Full power. Be ready to lift off instantly. As they descended, Sophia whispered urgently to her mother, remember what I taught you. When I move, you drop. No hesitation. The helicopter touched down 50 yards from Whitman's group. Through the open door, they could see his satisfied smile, the confident posture of a man who thought he'd won. Dr. Hayes, Whitman called out over the rotor noise, so good of you to join us, please. Exit slowly. Agent Chen, weapon on the ground. They emerged from the helicopter. Chen reluctantly placing her service weapon on the tarmac. The Rangers knelt in the dirt, zip-tied and terrified. One had blood soaking through his shirt from the shoulder wound. You know, Whitman said conversationally as they approached, I really did try to do this cleanly. But you had to be difficult. You had to be the hero. His cultured voice carried perfectly despite the distance. The Kozlovs are very upset. Bad. For business, all this attention. Let the Rangers go, Sophia said, stopping 20 feet away. They're not part of this. No one's going anywhere until we resolve this unpleasantness. Whitman pulled out a tablet, holding it up. You're going to access every evidence cache, delete everything. Then we'll take a little trip. There's a surgical team waiting, waste not, want not. You're still a perfect donor match for several high-priority clients. If I refuse, Whitman nodded to one of his men, who pressed a gun harder against the Rangers. Temple, I start with them, then your mother. Your choice. Sophia stepped forward slowly, hands visible. I'll need to access specific GPS coordinates. The tablet won't close enough, Whitman warned, his own weapon appearing in his hand, a small, elegant pistol that matched his refined image. But Sophia had seen what Whitman had in Chen's backup weapon, missed in the cursory search at the waterfront, still tucked in her ankle holster. As Sophia knelt, supposedly to access the tablet, she rolled sideways in a move practiced 1,000 times in her mind. Everything happened at once. Sophia came up with Chen's gun, firing twice with the precision of someone who trained for this moment. Whitman ducked behind his men as Sophia's shots took down 2 of them. Eleanor dropped flat as instructed while Chen rushed the nearest gunman, the helicopter pilot. A combat veteran reacted instantly. He tilted the aircraft, using the rotor wash to blast dust and debris into the air, creating an instant sandstorm. That blinded the shooters. In the chaos, the Rangers rolled away from their captors. Sophia kept firing, her 4 years of survival condensed into deadly accuracy. Another gunman fell. Chen had wrestled a rifle from one attacker and turned it on another. The tactical advantage had shifted in seconds. Whitman scrambled for cover, screaming orders, but his men were in disarray. The helicopter spotlights swung wildly, creating a disorienting strobe effect across the clearing. In the chaos, Whitman scrambled for cover behind a Park Service truck, his expensive suit now dirt-stained and torn. Kill them all, he screamed, his cultured facade completely shattered. No witnesses, but his remaining men were pinned down by Chen's precise rifle fire and the blinding rotor wash. That's when Eleanor heard more helicopters approaching. The cavalry had arrived. This is the FBI. A loudspeaker boomed from above. Drop your weapons immediately. The Black Hawks descended from the darkness, doors opened to reveal tactical teams ready to fast rope down. The remaining gunmen looked between Whitman and the overwhelming force arriving, and made the smart choice. Weapons clattered to the ground as they raised their hands. It's over, Whitman, Sophia shouted over the noise, keeping her weapon trained on his hiding spot. But Whitman had one last card to play. He grabbed Eleanor, who had crawled close to his position in the confusion. His pistol pressed against her temple as he dragged her to her feet. Drop the guns or she dies. His voice cracked with desperation. Sophia froze, her weapon trained on Whitman, but unable to risk the shot. Mother and daughter locked eyes across 20 feet of blood-stained ground. I'm sorry. Eleanor mouthed silently that she did something. Whitman didn't expect she went completely limp, becoming dead weight that threw him off balance. His grip loosened for just an instant as he tried to compensate. Sophia's shot was perfect. The bullet caught Whitman in the shoulder, spinning him away from Eleanor. His weapon flew from his hand as he hit the ground, clutching the wound. Blood seeped between his fingers. staining his humanitarian award suit a dark crimson. FBI agents fast-stroked from the helicopters, securing the scene with military efficiency. As medics rushed to treat the wounded, Sophia pulled her mother into a fierce embrace. "Where did you learn that?" Sophia asked, her voice shaking for the first time. "I took self-defense classes," Eleanor admitted, tears streaming down her face. "Every week for 4 years. I swore if I ever got you back, I'd never be helpless again." Chapter 11. The network exposed the FBI command center in Seattle had transformed into a war room. Whitman lay handcuffed to a hospital bed 3 floors down, his shoulder wound bandaged, surrounded by federal agents. But he wasn't talking. His lawyers had arrived within an hour, demanding immunity in exchange for any information about the Kozlov network. "He's stalling," Sophia said, studying surveillance monitors that showed Whitman's hospital room. "Waiting for extraction or elimination. The Kozlovs won't let him live long enough to testify." Agent Chen, her arm in a sling from the firefight, nodded agreement. "We've tripled security. But if they have more inside people, there's something else," another agent interrupted, holding up a small device. "We found this in Whitman's pocket. GPS tracker, but not one of his. Someone was tracking him." Sophia examined the device with interest. "This is American tech. Government issue, high-end stuff." She looked at Chen. "Someone in your agency wanted to know where Whitman went." "Someone who couldn't ask officially." Chen's face darkened. "Internal Affairs has been investigating several agents. If someone was running their own operation." Alarms suddenly blared throughout the building. On the monitors, they watched a medical transport van ram through the hospital security barrier, followed by the black SUVs. "They're here for Whitman," Chen realized. "All units to the lights went out." Emergency power kicked in a second later, bathing everything in ominous red. In the chaos, Sophia grabbed her mother's hand. "Stay close," she whispered. "This isn't a rescue, it's a cleanup." Gunfire erupted from Whitman's floor. On the security monitors, they saw masked figures advancing through the hospital, with military precision, taking down guards with tranquilizer darts rather than bullets. Professional, surgical, leaving no trace. "This isn't the Kozlovs," Chen said, watching the tactical perfection. "To clean, to professional. These are CIA cleanup crew," Sophia finished. Whitman was supplying organs to someone in the government. Black Ops medical procedures. Off-the-books transplants for assets. That's why he had protection for so long. The attackers reached Whitman's room, but instead of extracting him, they seemed to be negotiating. Audio crackled through the speakers. Whitman's voice, high with panic. "We had a deal. I kept quiet. I never mentioned the agency program." A calm response. "Deals change, Doctor. You've become a liability. Wait, I have insurance. Files that will release if I die. Names, dates. Every operation a single suppressed gunshot cut him off." "No," Sophia shouted. "We needed him alive, but something was wrong." On the monitors, the CIA team was retreating quickly, almost panicked. Then Eleanor saw why Whitman was still moving, had rolled off the bed despite his injuries. "He's wearing a vest." Chen breathed. Son of a bitch knew they'd come for him. The fake assassination had been a test. Now Whitman knew even his government. Handlers wanted him dead. In desperation, he pulled out his phone with shaking hands. "What's he doing?" Eleanor asked. Sophia's eyes widened in understanding. "The dead man switch. He's releasing everything." Across the city, computers and news stations, FBI offices, and social media platforms began receiving automated uploads. Years of evidence flooding the internet simultaneously. Videos, documents, recordings, financial transactions. Whitman's insurance policy against betrayal was activating in real time. "Holy shit," one of the FBI techs breathed, watching the data stream. "This is everything." Patient files, government contracts, CIA authorizations for illegal procedures, organ harvesting from prisoners. On Chen's phone, alerts were already cascading in. CNN had documents showing organ harvesting from federal prisoners. WikiLeaks was posting surgical videos with classified stamps. Twitter exploded with names of government officials who received illegal transplants. "This is beyond damage control," Chen said, her face pale. "He's burning down the entire network out of spite." The CIA team realized what was happening. They breached Whitman's barricade, but he'd accomplished his goal. As they dragged him out, he looked directly at a security camera and smiled with bloody teeth. You did this, Sophia. He shouted, his voice carrying clearly. You wanted the truth? Here's all of it. Every dirty secret, every complicit official, every murdered donor. Let them all burn. The feed cut out, but the damage was done. Phones rang constantly as the scandal exploded across every platform. News anchors were interrupting regular programming with breaking news alerts. Social media servers crashed. Under the weight of shared documents, we need to get you both to a secure location immediately, Chen said urgently. Every criminal connected to this network will want revenge, and now they all know your names. Eleanor looked at the monitors showing news coverage beginning. Her daughter's face was already on CNN, labeled as the whistleblower who brought down organ trafficking ring, but Sophia was staring at the data streams, watching years of carefully hidden evidence pour into public view. He gave us everything, she said quietly, names, locations, government connections. In his rage and desperation, he just did more damage than I ever could have. At what cost? Eleanor asked, seeing the weight settling on her daughter's shoulders. I don't know yet, Sophia admitted, but it's not over. Whitman was middle management. The real architects are still out there, and now they know exactly who exposed them. Through the window, they could see news vans already converging on the building. Drawn by the story of the century, protesters were beginning to gather. The truth was out, but Eleanor wondered if they'd survive its consequences. On the screens, a news anchor was reading names from the leaked documents. Senator Harrison, Judge Mitchell, CIA Deputy Director Thompson. Each name was another powerful enemy who would want them silenced. How many? Eleanor asked quietly. Hundreds, Chen replied. Maybe thousands. When we include international connections, this network touched everything government, medical establishments, organized crime. You've kicked over the biggest anthill in history. Sophia stood slowly, exhaustion evident in every movement. That we better get ready for the swarm. 6 weeks later, the congressional hearing room was packed beyond capacity. Cameras from every major network focused on the witness table. Sophia sat between her mother and her lawyer, wearing a conservative gray suit that couldn't quite hide the weight she'd lost, or the new lines etched around her eyes. Miss Hayes, Senator Williams began, his tone carefully neutral. You claim to have spent for years gathering evidence of a nationwide organ trafficking network. Can you explain why you didn't come forward sooner? Sophia leaned toward the microphone, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. Because, Senator, the network included 3 judges, 2 police chiefs, and at least 1 member of your own staff. Gasps rippled through the gallery. Williams's aide visibly paled, his face going from pink to ash white in seconds. That's a serious accusation. Check your aide's bank records, Sophia interrupted calmly. Deposits for merchant medical services, $50,000 every quarter for 3 years. It's documented on page 47 of the evidence package. Before you, the aide stood abruptly and headed for the door. 2 FBI agents followed him out. He didn't return. Eleanor watched her daughter systematically dismantled for years of cover-ups with surgical precision. Each revelation was backed by evidence, each accusation supported by documents, but she also saw the cost. Sophia's hands trembled between questions, and she developed the habit of checking exits even in this secured room. Mrs. Hayes, Senator Chen addressed Eleanor. What was it like, believing your daughter was dead? Eleanor straightened, drawing on inner strength she didn't know she possessed. Every morning for 4 years, I woke up hoping it was a nightmare, but I never completely gave up. A mother knows. Something in my heart kept insisting she was alive. Yet, you never received ransom demands, no contact whatsoever, because I wasn't kidnapped for ransom. Sophia interjected. I was harvested for parts. Young, healthy, type O negative universal donor. The only reason I survived was because I overheard them discussing the surgery schedule and escaped during shift change, and during these for years. Senator Martinez. Question, leaning forward, you claim to have helped other victims, not claim. Did. Sophia pulled out a photograph, her movements precise. These are the 7 people I helped escape. Maria Gonzalez, age 19, was scheduled for heart extraction. She's now in nursing school. David Park, 22, matched for liver donation to a tech billionaire. He's testifying tomorrow. How did you manage this alone? I wasn't alone. Sophia's voice strengthened, carrying across the silent room. That's what Whitman and his network never understood. Every person they discarded, every family they destroyed, became part of an underground resistance. Homeless veterans who lost everything taught me survival. Undocumented workers shared safe houses. Other survivors pooled resources. She looked directly at the C-SPAN camera, knowing her words would reach beyond this room. To those still in hiding, you're not alone anymore. Come forward. The Witness Protection Program has been expanded specifically for survivors of this network. Miss Hayes, Williams tried again, clearly rattled by his aide's departure. Some have suggested your story is to elaborate, too convenient. Dr. Whitman was a respected. Dr. Whitman performed my kidney removal surgery on Rebecca Chen without anesthesia because, quote, livestock doesn't need pain management. Sophia's voice remained steady despite the sharp intakes of breath from the gallery. I have the audio recording. Would you like me to play it for the committee? Williams declined hastily. The questioning continued for 3 grueling hours. Sophia revealed the network's structure with unflinching detail recruitment methods targeting vulnerable students, medical conferences used as cover for organ auctions, shipping routes disguised as pharmaceutical deliveries. The most disturbing part, Sophia explained, her voice carrying the weight of witnessed horrors, was how normalized it became for those involved. They had performance metrics, quarterly targets, Employee of the Month awards for highest extraction rates. It was industrialized murder run like a Fortune 500 company, and the government connection. Martinez pressed. Black budget medical programs. When CIA assets needed organs, they couldn't wait on official lists. Whitman provided off the books solutions. Check the dates every time an agent was critically injured overseas. Someone matching their blood type disappeared from Seattle, Portland, or San Francisco within 48 hours. Eleanor finally spoke up, her maternal pride overcoming her nervousness. My daughter sacrificed 4 years of her life to gather this evidence. She could have run to Canada, started over. Instead, she stayed and fought. She saved lives while risking her own every day. Some would say she should have trusted law enforcement. Williams countered weakly, like Officer Patricia Torres, who sold witness locations for $10,000 each. Eleanor's voice turned sharp as steel. Or Judge Morrison, who dismissed 36 missing persons cases that led directly to this network. My daughter survived because she trusted no one in authority. That should shame all of us. The gallery erupted in whispers. The committee chair called for order. As the hearing concluded, Sophia made a final statement. I've given you 400 pages of evidence, 200 hours of recordings, financial trails leading to 47 corporations. But I want to be clear, this isn't over. The Kozlovs have fled to non-extradition countries. 3 surgical teams are still operating. And somewhere, another young medical student is being groomed as a victim. The question is, what are you going to do about it? Outside the hearing room, reporters swarmed. But Eleanor noticed something else. Survivors approaching tentatively. A young man with surgical scars visible above his collar. A woman clutching a photo of her missing sister. They didn't speak, just nodded at Sophia with recognition and gratitude. How many more are out there? Eleanor asked quietly. Hundreds, Sophia replied. Maybe thousands. Whitman's network was just one tentacle of something global. But now they know we're fighting back. As they walked to their security detail, Eleanor saw her daughter stop at each survivor, memorizing faces, offering hope. The broken medical student was gone, replaced by something harder, but perhaps more necessary, a warrior who understood that some battles never truly end. 3 months later, the FBI war room looked like a conspiracy theorist's fever dream. Walls covered with photos, red string connecting faces to shell companies, maps marked with trafficking routes. Agent Chen stood before a massive organizational chart that stretched from Seattle to Switzerland, from Moscow to Mumbai. Whitman wasn't the leader, Chen announced to the assembled task force. He was middle management. The real power sits here. She pointed to a section of the chart marked with question marks and shadowy silhouettes. Sophia studied the chart, recognizing patterns from her years underground. Senator Harrison's chief of staff, the deputy director of health services, the Kozlov brothers in KYV. They weren't just protecting the network, they were customers and investors, and now they're all scrambling. Chen added, this morning, 15 survivors came forward simultaneously. Each had pieces we were missing. Together, they mapped the entire hierarchy. Eleanor watched as her daughter worked with other survivors, their shared trauma creating an unspoken bond. A young woman named Lisa presented shipping manifests from her time enslaved at a transport company. Marcus, who'd escaped from a holding facility, had photographed license plates for 2 years, creating a database of vehicle movements. They always moved victims on Tuesdays and Thursdays, Marcus explained, his voice steady despite the horror of his memories. Medical waste pickup days, bodies hidden among legitimate biohazard disposal. The coordination is staggering, Chen said. They had lobbyists killing oversight bills, judges dismissing cases, cops redirecting investigations. Whitman was right about one thing: this goes all the way up. Sophia pulled up financial records on the main screen. The Kozlov connection was just money laundering. The real leadership is American. Corporate executives who needed transplants, politicians who wanted to live forever, military officials running enhancement programs. Enhancement? Eleanor asked, though she wasn't sure she wanted to know. Experimental procedures. Trying to create super soldiers with upgraded organs. Failed. Experiments were disposed of quietly. Sophia's voice remained clinical, but Eleanor saw her hands clench. A commotion outside interrupted them. Through the windows, they saw news vans surrounding the building. Someone had leaked the survivor testimonies. This is good, Chen decided. Public pressure prevents cover-ups, but it also means everyone named is now desperate. As if on cue, phones throughout the room began buzzing. Reports flooded in. Suspects fleeing the country, evidence being destroyed. Witnesses receiving death threats. They're scattering like roaches, an agent reported. No. Sophia corrected, studying the pattern of flights and movements. They're consolidating. Look, private jets, all heading to the same region, international waters. Yacht registered to a Panama shell company. Chen swore. They're having an emergency board meeting, deciding whether to run or fight back. Neither. Sophia said quietly, they're going to activate the kill switch, eliminate all evidence, including witnesses. The room went cold. If the network's leadership decided to clean house, hundreds of survivors could be targeted simultaneously. How long do we have? Chen asked. Sophia checked her watch, calculating. Based on their past patterns, 6 hours before they vote. 8. Before implementation begins, then we hit them first, Chen declared. International waters complicate jurisdiction, but not if we have evidence of imminent threat to American citizens. As the FBI mobilized, Sophia pulled her mother aside. You should go to the safe house. This is about to get very dangerous. I'm not leaving you, not again.